Hey guys, HereticalJake here. In today's video, I want to talk about the grind for Luna's Howl and my experience with solo queuing up through the ranks to Fabled. If you find any of these tips helpful, feel free to drop a rating or leave a comment below if you have any other tips you'd like to add. The more people we can collectively help out with this, the stronger we are as a community and the healthier the competitive playlist will become. I want to provide some tips, tricks, discuss loadouts, and lay out a few ground rules that I myself followed to get through this quest. It's definitely grueling and can be very daunting. However, I absolutely believe, wholeheartedly, that every person who wants this hand cannon can obtain it. Now, before we get into the meat of the video, I want to start out by saying that I am incredibly average when it comes to player versus player content in Destiny. I am not the type of player to drop 40 kills each game, I'm just extremely stubborn. So when a quest rolls around that requires you to do everything under the sun, I may beat my head against a wall, but I will do the quest. With all of that out of the way, let's start with the steps you'll actually need to complete to grab this pinnacle weapon. Step 1. Complete 10 competitive matches. This part isn't too bad, you just have to do them. Wins are not required here. Step 2. Get 150 hand cannon kills in competitive. They don't need to be headshots, you just need to get the kills here. So try and run whatever you're most comfortable with by way of hand cannons. Be it a 110, 140, or 180 round per minute, there are good options in each category. We'll cover those in a moment. Step 3. Get 200 solar kills in competitive. This is where those solar subclasses will come into play, and again, we'll get to loadouts. Step 4. Get 100 precision hand cannon kills in competitive. My best advice here, pace your shots and stay patient. Spraying has situational effectiveness, sure, but there is lethality in waiting for the right opportunity to strike. And finally, Step 5. Reach Fabled. This one is pretty straightforward, but time-consuming. Just stick with it, and this one will come. Lastly, speak with Shaxipoo to collect your Luna's Howl.
Double down. Strength in numbers, Guardian. Excellent.
These steps seem more daunting than they really are at face value. 450 kills in Fabled, you may be saying. I'll never be able to get all of that done. Well, I definitely disagree with that. It's just a matter of mindset. I'd like to take a second to cover some guidelines I followed to help get me through this quest solo without ripping all of my hair out and screaming until my lungs collapsed. My first suggestion? Stay persistent. This quest honestly sucks to solo queue through, not only because of the steps, but because of the need to hit Fabled. The Fabled rank begins at 2100 glory points, and only getting around 30 to 45 glory points per win, depending on your win streak, can really make this take a while. In my opinion, this was the hardest part. When I was working my way through, I actually hit Fabled during the last kill step of the quest, as I was trying to do the steps and ranks simultaneously. I would definitely not recommend this, especially on console, unless you're an absolute monster with hand cannons. With things like Bloom, Flinch, and Recoil being disastrously hard to counteract in Destiny 2, getting wins and specific kills can be a headache maker. My suggestion for this would be to try and hammer out Fabled first. This is because the quest requires you to hit Fabled, but this can be done at any time. Just focus on wins and get that glory rank up. Once you hit Fabled, it'll be a lot less stressful to come back and just complete these kill steps. My second suggestion, be positive about your progress. Probably the worst thing you can do for yourself is to become negative about your progress. You are going to lose glory rank, it's just the reality of the competitive playlist. There will be games where you, Solo McGee, encounter a 4-stack, all running Lunas and Not Forgottens, and you get absolutely run through. This was probably the most frustrating aspect for me, but staying positive and striving for that end result really helped, as cliche as that sounds. My third suggestion, get comfortable with your loadout, but be ready to adapt. Throughout the start of this quest, I was using the Supremacy Sniper Rifle and a Trust hand cannon, but this loadout is very situational and often got me into trouble against the plethora of shotguns that are dominating the Crucible. I ended up using a Dustrock Blues and that same Trust hand cannon, and this seemed to help a lot. Obviously, it's a cheesy loadout, but hey, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em. My fourth suggestion? Don't get demotivated. We all lose sometimes. This one is probably the biggest for me personally. Lost streaks suck, and they really put a dampening on your progress. But if you're solo queuing, it's going to happen, guaranteed. The approach I took was to view every death, loss, and loss streak as a learning opportunity. I would record some footage, go back and re-watch it, and try and identify the problem areas in my gameplay. This simple tactic can really help to put you in a progressing mindset and help get you to a place of consistency. Lastly, stick with your team. They are the rock where you should build your home. Throughout my time with this quest, something I saw way too much of is a lack of team composition. People queue into solo, but then act like they're the only person on the team. They'll run right toward the enemy spawn, or dart off opposite to the rest of the team. Of course, getting kills is a goal. One of the main ones for sure, just because you need so damn many. But those will come. Focus on being a team player, i.e. holding lanes, playing the power ammo, capturing the right zones, for example, capturing Alpha and Charlie and holding the enemies on Bravo on the map Legion's Gulch, waiting to plant, etc. These things are how you get the best results by way of wins. There will always be a time to solo slay once you earn your Luna's Howl. Now that we've covered some suggestions and the steps required, as well as some tips for those, I'd like to talk about loadouts. We'll start with some weapons as they are more universal, and then we'll talk armor, subclasses, and subclass trees. Let's go over what to avoid first. I would honestly not recommend sniping at all. With recoil and flinch being so outrageous in D2, sniping just isn't what it used to be in Destiny 1. As well, you're going to be constantly rushed by the thirstiest shotgunners, and quickscoping just isn't an effective counter for that kind of play. As well, auto rifles. With their time to kill being slightly slower than the other weapon archetypes in 2.1.4, I found myself being outgunned by all manner of things from Mida multi-tools at medium-long range, pulse rifles at medium range, and shotguns up close. For myself, the ideal loadout ended up being a shotgun and a hand cannon or a pulse rifle. This allowed me to get up close when I needed, but to keep my engagements at a safer, less paranoia-inducing range. Alright, I'd like to go over archetypes and specific guns I had success with, and give some suggestions in regards to gear. There are a lot of good options that I won't list, because as it could potentially take a good amount of grinding to obtain some of them, like Malfeasance for hand cannons, the Mindbender's Ambition for shotguns, or Chattering Bone for pulse rifles, it just doesn't feel fair to the average player to make these recommendations. As well, we'll cover some primary ammo options just to save time. For secondaries, I would really suggest to use Dust Rot Blues as a secondary ammo weapon pretty much all the time. Pulse rifles. Now there are a lot of really good pulse rifles, but only a couple that I would recommend. There are obvious ones like Redrix's Claymore and Broadsword, but I think it would be safer if we use the more accessible options as our examples. Inaugural Address. This pulse rifle is a 390 round per minute pulse in the adaptive frame archetype. This just means it's really stable. I personally love this pulse rifle, and, if you're lucky, you may have a solar one kicking around in your vault from year 1. This would be really helpful with the solar kill step. Regardless, it's an awesome complement to any hand cannon if shotties aren't your thing. Blast Furnace, Right Side of Wrong, or Go Figure. Oh man, what monsters. There's just something about these 450 round per minute aggressive burst pulse rifles that give me goosebumps. Is it the 4 burst? The crispy 2 burst to kill? We may never know. What I do know though is that I love them. Hand cannons. I feel like these are the most rewarding archetype if you can get good with them. There are just so many good examples that come to mind, but for the purposes of keeping this short-ish, we'll cover only a couple more popular, easily obtainable options. The Ace of Spades. I feel like the Ace is much more consistent and reliable in D2 than it was in D1. The 3 taps you can hit with this thing are kind of unreal sometimes. At 140 rounds per minute, it's a really balanced option. Very stable, predictable recoil, doesn't flinch too bad, and it looks sick. Best of all worlds, really. Trust. In my opinion, Trust is going to be the best option for you guys all the way through the quest. It's solar, a rate of fire at 180 round per minute, which is the best archetype in my opinion, just because they're not as subject to recoil and flinch as other hand cannons. And it allows you to use the Dust Rock Blues as a primary. This, in my experience, was the best possible loadout I could muster. The Duke Mark 44. With the right roll, this can be a destroyer of worlds. When it's partnered with a 180 round per minute hand cannon, the team synergy and team shootability increases tenfold. I'm personally not a fan because of the slow rate of fire, but I can definitely see the appeal. As far as classes and armor goes, solar subclasses are going to be really helpful for the second step of the quest, as it requires you to get solar kills. Other than that, it's all personal preference. Right now, in Sandbox 2.1.4, there are some really powerful exotics that can absolutely help out. For Titans, the One-Eyed Mask, as scummy as it can feel, can make a huge difference. I can't tell you how many gunfights I've lost just because some Joe Blow gets an insta-heal off the rando that's close to me, then waxes me before I can burn the overshield. It may be gross, but so is Buckley's, and that stuff works. For Hunters, Shards of Galanor would be my #1 choice. Hits and kills replenishing super energy after the super concludes is so handy. Right now, I would be hard-pressed to recommend anything else just because of the state of the sandbox. For Warlocks, I would absolutely recommend the Ophidian Aspects. The increased melee range, as well as the increased ready speed, makes this by far my favorite Warlock exotic in player versus player activities. In regards to resilience, mobility, and recovery, the higher the resilience, the better. We want to avoid being destroyed quickly as much as possible. Sometimes, just being able to stay in the fight can win the gun battle. There are a lot of options that we didn't cover here today. I just want to make sure that you are all equipped with at least the basics. I hope this helps you get to Fabled and to grab that Luna's Howl. If you found this helpful, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for checking out the channel, and I'll see you next time.